Morning, Dr. Julie.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm good.
We have a spectacular guest for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Mr. Bo Parfet.
Ooh.
Yeah, he summited some of the highest summits in the world. He's conquered some of the most amazing mountains, but most importantly, he's conquered his family and he's conquered humanity.
He's conquered parenthood.
Everything, yeah. So this is called the 7 Summits of Parenting. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Prime Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Skip Weiss, and I am with, as usual, my co-host, the beautiful, amazing Dr. Julie Weiss, the Dr. Fairy Fingers, the BDC certified coach. It's a rap sheet, Bo, I'm telling you, and I have the amazing Mr. Bo Parfet, and it's so good to have you on today, Bo. How are you?
I'm wonderful. It's great to see you both, and hello to the audience.
Yeah, we are super, super excited to have you here. And Bo, your life story, your trajectory, your ability to wanting to conquer the 7 summits of the world and open multiple business lines. Can you give us a little bit of background, Bo, as to what you've done for our moms and dads and parents out there listening, and how you've been such an amazing father to your boys?
You bet. So a nickel tour of my background. I happen to live in Colorado now. I'm from Michigan originally, so from the Midwest. My wife is a hospice chaplain. She's amazing. And she also runs her own crisis management consulting business. And we have 2 boys that are 12 and 8. So I on the education side, I went to Colorado State University for undergrad, and I put myself through college. I worked full-time, 50, 60 hours a week at a restaurant. Loved every minute of it. And then went to University of Michigan, got a master's in applied economics. And then I went to Wall Street, and I worked for JP Morgan. I did mergers and acquisitions for JP Morgan. I also did a little nonprofit work. I worked for FASB. So for those accounting enthusiasts out there, the Financial Accounting Standards Board, or FASB, they write the accounting rules and the regulations for the United States of America. And then I got my MBA at Northwestern. I started my own business, so ran and had a successful exit, which was great. We had apartment buildings in college towns, which was pretty neat. I also was a fully sponsored ski mountaineer. I still am, but in a more of a full-time manner. So I got to scratch that itch. And what was it like to kind of be fully sponsored and, be that pro athlete, if you will. And then I also tried other businesses, and some of them failed spectacularly. Some did okay. And then I joined DLP Capital, which is a mission-driven company. We're about a $6 billion business. I'm one of the executives there. And our mission at DLP is to solve the workforce housing crisis in America. So what an impact company means, everybody, it means you can solve a problem in the world and you can make a financial return at the same time. So that would be a nickel tour of my background.
I think that's amazing. Bo, I had no idea that your wife was a hospice chaplain. That is incredible. We love talking faith, family, and finances on this show all the time. And, I feel that God puts people in rooms for very specific reasons and missions. And whether it's to meet each other for 10 to 15 minutes or to spend a lifetime of friendship in those people's lives. And Bo, it's such a touch to hear that. I didn't know your wife was a chaplain. I didn't pick that up when you spoke at Sales Matters with the Black Diamond Club. And your background on how you've basically went through these different verticals of your career, from having housing involved in college towns and providing housing there versus then selling that portfolio off and now moving into DLP and now having impact investing, where you're trying to solve the actual housing crisis in the United States and throughout the world. There's such a massive humanitarian effort there and a faith-based of providing shelter for all of God's children. Am I correct in that?
100%.
And I think that's just amazing. What led you down that path? Because I've heard you tell the stories of summiting these peaks and coming up on on men that are half dying or dead, and saving their lives, and trying to change everything with them. And just what led you down this path of wanting to help so many of God's children?
So there's been a few significant events in my life, and I want to pick one of them because it was a game changer for me. And I was working for JP Morgan, working 90, 100 hours a week. I was 40, 50 pounds overweight in New York City, just grinding it out. And I had worked for 7 or 8 months straight. That means Saturday and Sunday, everybody. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I don't think I left the office before 11 p.m. or midnight in 7 to 8 months.
Wow.
Okay. So hours worked, that's close, I don't know, a year and a half, almost, maybe close to 2 years. And I went into my boss's office and I said, hey, I want to take my first vacation. And I want to go climb Kilimanjaro, the tallest mountain in Africa. And I want to do it because it'll give me a reason to get in shape, and hopefully I can find time to train, and and I'll learn a lot. And he kind of listened to me talk, but that's basically what I said. And then he kind of looked at me and he goes, well, what makes you think you're going to make it? And Dr. Skip and Dr. Julie, he looked down at my belly, which was pretty big at the time. And I was like, hey, don't look at my belly. And I said, he didn't say anything. He just kind of looked, and he goes, I said, well, I'm kind of determined. I hope I can make it. He goes, yeah, but it's hard to find time to train when you're working these many hours. And he said, he goes, can I give you a gift? I said, yeah. And, we didn't know each other that well, but he was basically saying, can I give you one of God's gifts? Is really what he was saying. And I said, yeah, I'd love to hear it. He said, if you climb Kilimanjaro for something bigger than yourself, you're going to discover that you have more energy than you could possibly imagine. And he said, now think about that, get out of my office and come back to me. Think about that. So I thought about it. So 2 weeks later, I come back to his office. But in that 2 weeks, here's what I did. I realized that JP Morgan had a foundation. Okay. I realized that I should do something. I was called to do something on the continent of Africa, because Kilimanjaro is the tallest mountain on that continent. And I wanted to help. I wanted to do something. So we decided so I kind of doing this research said, hey, for $6,000, we can create a doctor in Africa, one doctor for $6,000, pay for their medical school. Boom.
Holy smokes.
Okay. So I found the organization. JP Morgan also liked that organization, the foundation. So I got to meet a couple people in the foundation. I go back to my boss's office and I said, hey, I've got it. So I told him gave him the idea, and he looked at me and he goes, well, this is fabulous. And then he said, and he goes, but it's $6,000, right? Yeah. And I was like nervous, right? He goes, well, aren't you going to do 2 doctors? And I went, yes, we should do 2. And he opened up his checkbook right then and there. Boom, he writes a check, hands it to me for $6,000. And he goes, you only have 1 left now. And then he goes, you should talk to this person, this person. So I went all throughout the company, meeting people way above my pay grade, and got to meet some of the amazing men and women who are leaders at JP Morgan. They did an article on me on the JP Morgan magazine. We funded two people now, became doctors. They saved lives, right? They still, to this day, we've also funded more doctors. So to land the plane here, when it was so difficult climbing that mountain, and I had some food poisoning on my summit attempt. So I had my upset stomach and I was dehydrated, and I just said, it was so tired and exhausting. And I just said, you know what? This isn't about me. This isn't about me. I'm just going to do my part and climb this mountain. This is really about these 2 doctors and all the lives they're going to save. Mm-hmm. So to date, every year we call all the doctors that we've created, and we ask them, how many lives did you save this year? And we're over 400,000 lives saved.
Oh my!
And our goal is 1 million. Isn't that cool?
How many doctors is that now, Bo?
10.
It's 10 doctors.
Wow. Yeah,
that's amazing. So think like 10 doctors, $60,000 investment, 400,000 lives saved, 40,000 patients, like per doctor. I think the ROI is pretty decent on that. And you know what I mean? And the humanitarian side of it is just absolutely incredible. And Bo, I think the fact that what you said was to have a greater purpose behind what you're doing, because a lot of people try to do these self-fulfilling prophecies and these self-fulfilling events. And what they find is that most of them, when they dig deep and really they're doing it for so much more than just what themselves, their purposes. They find that something that drives them forward even more and gives them that internal strength, right?
Mhm.
And I suppose you could probably comment on that, on being a mom and what it's like birth.
Oh goodness. Yeah. You can't really give up halfway.
Okay.
But I think that, we talk about the ROI, but
Mhm.
the money wasn't even the issue. I think sometimes it's us getting out of our way and to make that bigger
Mhm.
ask, because it wasn't about you and you wanting to do this. It was about, whoa, so much bigger of, okay, if we can get these doctors, how many more people can we impact?
And when you look at that ROI as return on investment, but IOR is even more important, and that's the impact of the return. And it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal, Bo, to hear that impact in 400,000 lives. Like, that's incredible. Like Julie and I are chiropractors. We specialize in children and in families, and it's what we do. And we've been at it for 15 years. And we've taken care of hundreds of thousands of people and children. And I look at the sheer cost of our education in the United States. I mean, we both came out with almost $120,000 each in debt. I mean, that's crazy. That's 20 doctors in Africa for just one of us in our education. And I can't say that the education is probably that much different, to be quite honest with you, Bo. Now let's talk a little bit about parenting and how you've stewarded your boys, because I didn't know if you knew I was going to go here with this, but I feel like we should. How have you been a steward to your boys being 8 and 12? Dad's had a mountain of experience in business, for lack of a better term, and no pun intended, but mountains of experience. What have you done to shepherd those boys and give them the same philanthropic and rewarding outlook that you have?
Well, I love that. I love that question. So we talk a lot about at home, and I also talk a lot about this out into the world, as you may know. So there's the two most important moments of your life are the moment you're born and the moment you know why. And those are so powerful. And as parents, what do we do with that information, right? And it's one thing to do it for ourselves, but it's another thing about how do we do it with our kids. So one of the things that I kind of discovered, and my kids had been along with me on this journey, is, hey, they knew that dad was this entrepreneur, sometimes successful, sometimes not successful. And I was really just making a living. And when I joined DLP, I started making a life. And let's unpack that a minute. So DLP, again, an impact company. Remember, everybody, so we can solve a problem in the world and make a financial return at the same time. So as parents, when your kids plug into us on what should they do with their career, I mean, it's, that's a serious conversation. So one option, one end of the spectrum is if maybe your kid comes to you and says, hey, I want to work at a nonprofit or my church or a charity. Great. They're gonna pour value into that channel and that avenue. That's wonderful. The other side of that arc is, hey, I have a gift for being very successful monetarily. Think Warren Buffett, and that's one of my God-given gifts, right? It's just to do really well. Mm-hmm. And what's cool about that is most successful people I know, Warren Buffett included, who I don't know, I just know of and read about, is right. He's giving most of his wealth to the Gates Foundation. Yes. Well, isn't that beautiful? Isn't that wonderful? Mm-hmm. And then in the middle of that would be something like this impact investing. And I heard someone say the other day that the furthest distance in the universe is a distance between your head and your heart. And when you hear about a nonprofit or an impact company that's trying to change the world, your first reaction is, oh my gosh, your heart is like, what do you need? How can I help? And then your head gets in the way and goes, well, wait a minute. If I do make this donation or I do invest in your company, Are you going to even be around in 5 or 10 years? How many employees do you have?
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to be wise with my capital? Are you even measuring your results? So I think as a parent, all these different channels are okay, right? All these different options are okay. And, one of the things I think that I try to work on is not to project, with my kids. Like I can be an intense parent sometimes. Like, I wake up in the morning, I'm all excited. I journal, finish my morning prayer, and I'm in my kid's face telling, what are you going to do today? What are you going to accomplish? And he's like, Dad, back away. I'm just trying to eat my cereal.
That's right.
So I think as a parent, just knowing and maybe saying, hey, I want to be a teacher, God bless all the people that are teachers, but I want to go do these little cool, I want to run a marathon for charity, or I want to go and do XYZ for charity. That's okay too. So knowing what that landscape is, I think as a parent, and if you're listening and you're a kid, know that you have all these options and they're all okay.
Yeah,
They're all
I
great,
think
frankly.
they are all great. And I find it so interesting. You see, raising our children, we have a 15-year-old daughter and a 12-year-old son. And our 15-year-old daughter is very fiscally responsible, saves a lot. We've had these conversations about money on here. And I find it funny. Myron Golden made a comment, and he said, why are all evil people rich? Not rich creates evil, but why are all evil people rich? And they create this vacuum with their finances and stuff. But what I find is that people that are extremely successful are also very, very philanthropic, and they actually have massive loving hearts, and they want to help and they want to create an impact. And that's the thing, is they don't just want to throw money at things. They want to create an impact with the dollars that they've worked so hard for, and they want to make an impact in the world. Now, Bo, when we're talking impact and we're looking at the stuff here with DLP and having impact investments, what is it that DLP is really specifically honing in on? Is it building more houses now in Africa? Is it doing things more in the United States? Where is the avenue of investment here?
Sure. And for anyone listening, DLP is a growing company. We're always looking for talented people. So feel free to help join our cause. So what we're focused on, I'm going to answer in two ways because we have the DLP Foundation.
Absolutely.
So for people listening, a business is one of the, if not the most creative platform to solve problems, to do good. Okay. So what we focus on at DLP is solving the affordable housing or the workforce housing crisis. People call it different things: workforce housing, affordable housing, or attainable housing. Okay. And for this interview, let's just say that generally means the same thing. There's some nuances there, but that's what we're trying to solve: is the market rate workforce housing crisis in America. And we've had this crisis in America since 1776.
Yeah.
Since this great country was founded, is for people to find a place to live that's safe, clean, and affordable.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we define that? So if your rents, okay, so my salary, okay, whatever I make, if my rents are 30% or less of what I make every year, then by definition, and this is the government and the leading experts, if your rent is 30% or less of what you make, then it's attainable. Okay. And at DLP, our rents are by mandate, by self-mandate, will be 30% or less of that local area income.
Yeah, the median income.
Yep.
Okay.
And we're at about we're at about 22%, plus or minus a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're spending such a small amount of your income on rent, you have so much more money for education, for healthcare,
Yes.
maybe for a vacation. Or if your car breaks down, you can fix it and you're not going to be able to not pay your rent. And for something just happened, an eclipse just happened, I think in the last couple months, and this is not a good one, by the way, is for the first time in the US, the average American is spending more than 30% of their income on rent.
Yeah,
Many Americans spend 50, 60, 70% of their income on rent. And it is without question, Dr. Skip and Dr. Julie, a crisis. This is a crisis. And there's a shortage of about 5 to 7 million of these units in America. and we're doing our best to solve it. So that's DLP on the kind of the for-profit side.
Well, if I can just really quick interrupt you,
Sure.
Bo, like Dr. Julie, you went through this here in Green Bay, and you had talked about how we have a large amount of homeless in Green Bay, but they don't not a lot talk about it. But it's not that they're not unemployed. They're employed. They can't afford rental.
They can't.
They
There's
literally
not
can't
rentals
afford rentals.
available. But then the rentals that are available, there's no way for them to even that's not even close to that 30%.
Yep.
That's a big struggle.
It's a big crisis. When you told me about that, I was floored because I knew I was like, well, like most Americans assume that homeless people don't have jobs, they're not employed. It's the fact that they can't afford the housing, which is a serious issue. And then to come back on top of it, affordable housing comes with a connotation that the people living there aren't good people. I hope that you absolutely loved that first part of this 2-part series with Bo Parfet and the 7 Summits of Parenting, and just raising an amazing family and how we can instill philanthropy and stewardship with our children. Next week is going to be absolutely phenomenal. Tune in for part 2 of this series. It'll blow you away. Have a great day. Bye, everyone.